Everyone wants to own EVs, but have you ever wondered how they work? Not only do they offer fantastic performance, but these cars run quietly and emit zero pollution too. But how? What's the secret? How do electric vehicles even work? Keep watching to find out. From the outside, an EV is like any other car. But where's the gas cap? There is none. It's got an electric motor under the hood. There's no way of telling if a car is electric or not. But on the inside, it's an entirely different story. Ever wonder what makes an EV tick? The heart of an electric vehicle beats with three main components: the batteries, the motor, and the controller. The controller is a device that controls the flow of energy from the battery into the motor. The controller also adjusts the power depending on how hard you press the pedal. The batteries store the energy and the motor makes your car move. Now, traditional gasoline cars use internal combustion engines, which rely on burning fuel to move. This process involves lots of explosions and complicated moving parts, but electric vehicles take a different approach. Instead of burning fuel, electric vehicles use electric motors powered by high-voltage batteries. This simple setup means EVs have fewer parts that move around. What does this mean for maintenance? They need less maintenance than regular cars. That means fewer trips to the mechanic and no surprise breakdowns. On top of that, you won't have to worry about changing the oil regularly like you do with gasoline cars. But what about the science behind the battery? EVs have a bunch of lithium-ion batteries grouped in what we call a battery pack. These batteries are the powerhouse of the car, supplying the energy to move the car and keeping the AC running cool. Now, charging up an EV battery is exactly like charging your phone's battery, just on a much bigger scale. You plug it into an outlet or a charging station, and well, that's about it. The amount of energy an EV's battery can hold is measured in kilowatt hours. The bigger the number, the more it can store, and the further you can go on a single charge. But how far you go doesn't entirely depend on the size of your battery. It can also depend on other things, such as the size of your car, its weight, and how aerodynamic it is. Is there only one kind of battery? Not at all. EVs come with different battery sizes, and some even offer a range of different options. Take the 2024 Hyundai Kona Electric as an example. It starts with a battery that's 48.6 kilowatt hours and can travel 197 miles before you need to plug it in. But if you're looking for more mileage, there's a bigger battery option of 64.8 kilowatt hours that can take you up to 260 miles on a single charge. Pretty cool, right? Now, you might think all electric car batteries are the same, but that's not entirely true. Sure, lithium-ion batteries are common, but there's another type called nickel-cobalt-manganese batteries. These are the heavy hitters, offering a lot of power and the ability to go further distances. Then there's the lithium iron phosphate batteries. They skip the expensive stuff like cobalt and nickel, but still keep you moving just as far. The drawback? They're not the best in cold weather and don't have as much power. The battery only stores the energy though, it's the motor that makes the wheels spin. So let's talk about the design of the motor. Inside the motor there are two sets of magnets. One set is on the spinning shaft connected to the wheels, and the other is in the motor's housing. Both sets of magnets have the same charge, so they push away from each other, making the shaft turn, which makes the wheels spin. And lastly, that makes the car go forward. But to keep the car moving, the magnets need to change which way they're pushing from time to time. Otherwise, they might start pulling towards each other and stop the car. AC power naturally does this, switching between positive and negative. But EV batteries provide DC power. So that's why they need a clever thing called an inverter to keep switching the magnet's polarity and keep the motor running smoothly. The EV inverter switches the polarity of the magnets super fast, around 60 times every second. This keeps the motor spinning smoothly. Now there's also a DC converter that sends power to other parts of the car, like the heating and infotainment systems. The driver can change the frequency of the current sent to the motor. The higher the frequency, the more the polarity flips, which means more rotational force, which leads to faster wheel spinning. This inverter is like the middleman between the battery and the motor. It takes that DC power and switches it up to AC so the motor can do its thing. Don't fully understand how it functions yet? Keep watching. Next, we've got the electric traction motor. The traction motor turns the wheels, using the power from the battery pack. Some cars even have motor generators that pull double duty, both driving the car forward and capturing energy when you brake. And last but not least, we've got the controller unit. This handy device is like the brains of the operation, managing the flow of energy and making sure everything runs smoothly. It's what recharges the battery pack during regenerative braking, turning that kinetic energy into stored power. The controller unit, converter, and inverter work together to manage the flow of energy from the battery. Some older electric cars still use a DC motor controller system to keep costs down, but newer models are shifting to AC motor controller systems for better efficiency and lighter weight. Now, the auxiliary battery in an electric car powers all the accessories, and the charge port lets you connect to an external power supply to juice up the main battery pack. Plus, there's the charger, which comes in two types: onboard chargers that are built into the car, and off-board external chargers. There's also the thermal system cooling, which keeps everything running smoothly by maintaining the right temperature range. And let's not forget about the electric transmission, which transfers power from the electric motor to the wheels, making sure your car moves forward. But what about the different types of electric cars? You've probably heard of battery electric vehicles, also known as BEVs. They run entirely on battery power, no gas needed. They store their power in a big battery pack that you can charge by plugging into the grid. Then that power runs one or more electric motors to get the car moving. Some of the most famous BEVs on the market are the Tesla Model 3, the Tesla Model Y, and the Chevy Bolt. Now let's talk about plug-in hybrids. These cars have both an internal combustion engine and an electric motor. The engine runs on gas while the motor runs on a battery. They work together to drive the wheels. Now, regular hybrids like the Honda Civic Hybrid and Toyota Prius can't charge their batteries from an outlet or station. They rely on the engine or wheels to do that. That's where plug-in hybrid EVs come in. These are hybrids with a twist. They have an engine, a motor, and a rechargeable battery pack. You can charge these batteries by plugging them into an outlet or station. That means you can drive using just electricity or switch to a mix of electricity and gas. Some plug-in hybrids can go up to 130 miles per gallon. These are cars such as the Mercedes C300e, the BMW 330e, and the Lexus NX450h+. Lastly, we have the futuristic fuel cell EVs. Instead of a battery, they use fuel cell tech to make electricity from a fuel source, usually hydrogen. So no changing is needed. All this means that there are some problems you can run into while driving an EV too. Finding charging stations, especially on long trips, can be a headache. Recharging your EV can either take up to 15 to 20 hours at home or about 30 minutes at a rapid station. Then there's the driving range. It can be limiting, especially for long hauls, and it can cause massive range anxiety. And let's face it, electric cars often come with a higher price tag up front compared to gas-powered ones. Well, that's it for everything there is to know about EVs. Let us know in the comments if we missed anything, and hit that glowing subscribe for more videos like these.